far as it takes to...
Alice Rye, a former CIA agent, now works at a community center in London, helping people in a neighborhood impacted by extremist activity. One day, she hears that a group of Egyptian immigrants is hiding in an apartment. She reports this to Emily N.S., the head of MI5 intelligence. But Emily later explains that they are only students and that the information Alice received was wrong. Her life is calmer now, but she is still haunted by the bombing in Paris. That tragedy pushed her to leave the CIA and start a cleaner, more stable life in another part of the city. Meanwhile, Latif, a young courier, meets Yazak Khalil, a powerful imam. Khalil gives him an important message to memorize as proof of his identity. But before Latif can deliver it, a group of men ambushes him and takes him away. At the same time, Malister, a CIA interrogator, is found dead in a hotel pool, and at first, people think he died of a heart attack. Bob Hunter, the CIA station chief in Langley, knew that Malister planned to interrogate Latif, who was suspected of helping organize an attack on an American citizen in the UK. The person chosen to carry out the attack was David Mercer, an American who had been radicalized. Meanwhile, Alice met her former CIA chief, Eric Lashing, at a restaurant. He tried to convince her to return to the agency, but she was still deeply affected by the Paris bombing that killed 24 people. Lashing assured her that she wasn't responsible for what happened and encouraged her to move forward. The CIA believed the planned attack was linked to a biological weapon Mercer was waiting for instructions to use. They wanted to replace Latif with another agent, but first needed the verification phrase he carried. Years earlier, Malister, who had once advised them, had died. The team then began reviewing Alice's file. Her former supervisor, Ed Romley, talked to Hunter about her past, including her tough childhood in foster care and the time she broke a teacher's arm because he behaved inappropriately. Norwest explained that they recruited her because of her excellent record. Her high intelligence scores were the main reason the CIA brought her in. But her inability to stop the Paris bombing almost ruined her career. After that, she continued working secretly for MI5. Even so, Hunter still believed she was the best person for the job. On a bus, Alice was approached by Frank Suter, who proved his identity with a CIA control code. He then ordered her to interrogate Latif. Although she was unsure, Alice had to obey because the order came from her superiors. She was brought to a hidden site where Latif was being held, and he looked terrified. To earn his trust, she asked the guards to remove his hood and turn off the camera. At first, Latif pretended he couldn't speak English, but Alice quickly realized he understood what she was saying. She removed his handcuffs and gave him a can of soda. He didn't ask why he was detained, which told her he already knew. Latif said he only wanted a quiet life in Frankfurt and believed he had finally found a pure Islamic way of living there. Alice then showed him a photo of himself with Kill, connecting him to a past bombing. He became nervous and said he could explain everything. After she continued to question him, he admitted he had been told to deliver a message to his superior. He agreed to cooperate. Alice relayed the message to Sudor, but they still needed more information to decode it before she could finish her mission. Romley officially gave her the task of interrogating Latif. Sensing she was in danger, she went back to the room where Suter was pressuring her for the last piece of information. There, she noticed a man standing behind her, ready to kill her if she answered incorrectly. Thinking fast, Alice pretended she needed more details from Latif. As soon as she got close to him, she quietly warned him that they were both in danger.
What happened?
Alice caused a distraction by pretending Latif was trying to escape. She took down 2 men, grabbed their guns, and shot through the wall to kill another attacker. She and Latif fought their way out, but when he was shot in the leg and hit again near the exit, Alice had no choice but to leave him behind. She later hid at Lash's house and told him she no longer trusted the people who claimed to be from the CIA. Meanwhile, Hunter's team located the truck transporting Latif, found the entire crew dead, and increased their search efforts. Lash treated Alice's injuries, but warned her that Langley would not let her walk away so easily. A group of assassins suddenly storms the house, leaving Lash critically injured. Before he dies, he manages to give Alice the address of his safe house. Alice escapes through a window while gunfire erupts around her. Meanwhile, David Mercer receives the biological weapon. His team assembles it into an explosive device, tests it on mice, and then hides it inside a toolbox. A nervous courier accidentally dropped the package, and several local children wandered into the lab and became infected with the virus. Alice then arrived at her assigned apartment and caught a thief trying to steal a TV. She stopped him, pulled off his mask, and knocked him out. While checking his pockets, she learned his name was Jack Alcott, a small-time criminal. Afterward, Alice slipped into the tech room, redirected the Ethernet connection, and called Hunter to report where she was. Alice used a landline to report that someone was hunting her. Latif was dead, and Lag had also been killed. Jack overheard everything from another phone in the apartment. When she noticed that Suter knew too many CIA codes, Alice began to suspect there was a mole inside the agency. Moments later, a tactical team mistakenly raided the wrong apartment, giving Alice the perfect chance to escape. She left the knife behind so Jack could free himself, then slipped out just as the authorities broke in. Alice hid in the laundry room where she fought off 2 officers before being tasered. Suddenly, Jack showed up, knocked out the police, and helped her escape. Meanwhile, Hunter and Emily argued about allowing Alice to slip away. Emily believed someone had helped her and ordered a deeper investigation. Jack then brought Alice to an abandoned building. He admitted that after overhearing her call, he realized she was in real danger and didn't want to leave her alone. Jack also revealed that he had served in the Marines for 4 tours. When Alice got ready to leave, Jack calmly drew his gun not to threaten her, but to demonstrate his skills, saying she might need a trained ally. Alice hesitated but realized that Jack could be the only person she could trust right now. The two decided to track down Judd, an old friend of Alice's from the community center who had connections to Khalil's mosque. They learned that Khalil often visited a certain restaurant. After some convincing, the owner agreed to help and gave them directions. On the way, Alice called Emily and asked her to track Latif's phone, since he was about to receive a message with the meeting location. When they arrived, Jack went inside the restaurant to watch, while Alice stayed in the car to monitor the situation. Emily also appeared, pretending to talk with the owner to gather information about Khalil. Because Latif was in serious danger, the car owner acted like he knew nothing, then quietly stepped outside to send a message to Latif. But Emily's team was tracking the phone and quickly traced it to a nearby parking lot. Alice signaled to Jack, who immediately took down 2 guards. At that moment, Khalil came out of the back room. Alice sat across from him and explained everything. Sutter had kidnapped Latif to get information about the protocol message, and she suspected Sutter wanted to replace Khalil. Khalil, however, insisted he had never ordered any attack. Khalil said he had once advised David Mercer to resign. Alice was doubtful, but Khalil explained that as a devout Muslim extremist, he always sought guidance from Allah and tried to stop others from turning to violence. When Alice pressed him about the plan, Khalil refused to reveal any details. After they left, Judd kept watching the restaurant owner and discovered another meeting location. Meanwhile, Emily and her team traced Latif's phone. Alice and Jack arrived at an apartment complex where Judd was waiting, but before they could act, Alice received a call from Emily. Alice decoded the meeting location from Jack's phone data. During their conversation, Jack accidentally mentioned something about his military past that made Alice suspicious. She confronted him about his true identity, but Jack insisted he was just a former Marine named Jack Alott. Alice didn't trust him and decided to leave. Just as she turned away, Jack suddenly lunged at her with a knife. Alice fought back fiercely, but Jack overpowered her. He forced her to record a message for Sutter and threatened to kill her if she didn't give him the protocol. At that moment, a tattooed man with 2 large Rottweilers stepped into the elevator. Alice loosened the muzzle of one of the dogs and then suddenly attacked the tattooed man. The dog lunged at Jack, forcing him to shoot it. Enraged, the tattooed man chased Alice, demanding the protocol, but she refused just as Jack was about to strike her. Jack tried to fight back, but the tattooed man pulled a gun and shot him in the back. He then released the other dog to attack Jack and fired several more rounds to finish him off. Meanwhile, Emily was called in for an emergency involving a child infected with the same deadly virus Mercer had. Alice quickly came up with a plan. Umud would pretend to be Latif and send a stand-down order to Mercer. Alice worried because Umud was still young, but he insisted on helping. She reminded him to focus on memorizing the message. They waited at the dock while an MI5 sniper watched from a distance. At that moment, Emily pulled Alice aside and shared shocking news. The Paris bombing might have been deliberately ignored by the CIA because one of the victims was a whistleblower. Alice was shocked, but also relieved to finally have some answers. Meanwhile, Hunter's team recovered a bullet from an old shooting and found that the sniper rifle used belonged to British intelligence. As they traced where the weapon came from, Alice and Emily continued digging deeper into the investigation. Alice noticed a suspicious wire under the pier and rushed to investigate. At the same time, the CIA identified the sniper rifle as belonging to an agent named John Wilson. When a boat arrived, Alice hid under the dock. Unaware of the danger, Umud met a man, one of Sutter's operatives, and was shot in the neck. Emily received a warning that Wilson was involved, but before she could act, she and her team were ambushed. Alice ran to save Umud, but Wilson killed him before she could reach him. Wilson shot Alice, but Emily, though critically wounded, managed to fire back, forcing Wilson to retreat. At the same time, Mercer received a message from one of Sutter's operatives confirming that the attack was in progress. A secret messenger hid weapons inside the air vents of a crowded building. Meanwhile, Sutter met with Roy and revealed that they had been working together all along. Latif played a recording of a conversation between Mercer and the courier, showing that the courier had doubts about the bombing, but Lash had already prepared a backup plan. Wilson was ordered to kill the courier after Sutter received the payment. Alice burst in and shot Wilson dead, then confronted Latif about his betrayal. Instead of answering directly, Latif admitted that Khalil had grown weak, so he had to take control. He also confessed that he had faked his own death, manipulated Alice through Jack, and orchestrated the entire Paris bombing. He mocked Alice, calling her a perfect pawn who only follows orders without questioning them. While they talked, she secretly tried to shoot him in the leg after removing the magazine from her gun, but it was empty. He knocked her down and escaped. Alice quickly grabbed a car and gave chase. She soon discovered that the bombs had been planted in PCT Stadium, where an American football game was about to start. He ran into a warehouse where Wilson was waiting and handed him an item. Alice sneaked in just as the detonator started its 5-minute countdown. Roy thought he was safe and defended the attack, saying it would put America in a state of emergency and let the government take full control of citizens' medical and financial records. Alice fired a warning shot, warned Wilson, and a fierce gunfight erupted. Alice tried to wound Wilson, but he still managed to throw a grenade. The blast left her hanging from the edge of the wall. Wilson approached and mocked her, but Alice wrapped her legs around his neck, choking him. During the struggle, she grabbed the detonator and pulled him down with her. Wilson died, and Alice climbed back up in time to disarm the bombs. Afterward, Hunter called with a new assignment: track down Mercer, who had gone missing. Alice accepted without hesitation. Meanwhile, in Prague, Mercer met a contact to plan his escape. But as soon as he got off the tram, someone slit his femoral artery, and he bled out within seconds. The attacker was Alice. She disappeared into the crowd, and minutes later, Hunter picked her up, gave her a new passport, and officially welcomed her back to the CIA.